Gary Delvaux,
Here.
Matt Schuler,
Here.
Alder Barb Dorf,
Here.
Debbie Dean,
Here.
Kathy Hinkfuss,
Here.
Melanie Parma,
Here.
Bridget Reardon.
I think Bridget made it yet.
Okay. Okay. We have quorum, Mr. Chair, so.
Without a doubt. Approval of agenda, please.
Move to approve. Motion to approve. Oh, second.
Kathy and Alderdorf. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Minutes from June 8th. Everybody have a chance to look at those?
Mhm.
I thought they were fine. I wasn't there, so.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Matt,
I'll second.
second by Melanie. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you. Regular business. Consideration with possible action on 2013 RDA lease revenue bonds K12 refinancing.
Yep, I'm going to ask Diana, do you want to introduce this item?
Yes, please.
Sure. Hi, all.
Hi, all.
Hey, Dana.
You know, we're in a good environment right now. Interest rates are low. We have a lot of outstanding debt on our KI2 expansion, and our financial advisors and predecessors have suggested that we look to refinance our KI2 expansion debt. So that is what is in front of you at this point. I'm actually going to turn it over to, we have two representatives on the phone. We have Todd Taves from Ellers, and we have John Meehan from Baird. So kind of our experts to kind of talk you through it and see what, you know, if you want to move forward and with a recommendation to try to go ahead and do a refunding on this borrowing.
Okay, before we do that, I'd like one clarification. I don't understand the legal ramifications of how the county was supposed to be helping us to pay off these bonds. Could you give us a little recap of that and where we're at with that whole situation?
Thanks, Gary.
I can, or Vanessa, our attorney, is on the line. I don't know if Vanessa, you are interested in talking to it. I mean, we're still working with the county to try to negotiate, yes, with the county.
Okay. Vanessa, are you there? Okay. Anyway, the bottom line, you guys are still trying.
There she is. She's here, Gary. There she is.
Yeah. So Vanessa, I'm trying to understand what type of agreement we had with the county in regard to helping us make these payments on the KI expansion.
So as Diana alluded to, we are currently still working with the county to address our interpretations, interpretations of the agreement. But ultimately what it comes down to is whether or not there's enough money in the fund for the city's, the RDA's debt payments to fall under that waterfall for the funds to flow down to us. So there is a carve out. I think that everybody was under the assumption that there would always be adequate funding in the fund to allow for the city's debt payment to be paid. And it was never addressed at the time what would happen if something should happen. We addressed a reserve fund, and we talked about the potential for the county stepping in and providing assistance. And partnering with the city, but this specific scenario was never addressed. And so this solution that we've come up with, which is refinancing, kind of avoids a lot of those sticky conversations in the sense that what you're going to hear is that this alleviates the shortfall or the payment while there is a shortfall, which means that we aren't going to be arguing over $500,000 or $700,000 come December.
Okay. Any other questions on that or comments? Otherwise, I'm ready for the presentation.
I just have one question.
Yes, please, Kathy.
Looking at this KI2, is this my understanding correct that the city of Green Bay is fully at risk for the KI2 versus the KI1 has shared risk?
That is
yes. That's correct? Okay. So this is additional money we took out, the city of Green Bay, to finish it?
It was for the expansion of the KI Convention Center.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Otherwise, I think we'll have the presentation.
Yeah, we could turn it over to probably Todd Taves. Do you need to open the floor?
I'd make a motion to open the floor.
Yes, please.
I
Thank you,
second.
Matt. Who second?
Kathy.
Kathy, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Thanks, Matt. Forgot that. All right. Thank you.
Well, thank you and good afternoon. And as Diana mentioned, John Meehan from Baird is on the call as well. So to the extent you have questions at the end, we're certainly both here to address those. So we've kind of started to touch on this already, but we'll jump right in if we can go to the next slide. And as was mentioned, this set of KI2 bonds that were issued in 2013 were issued by the RDA for purposes of financing the convention center expansion. And as Diana mentioned, the interest rates on the current bonds, which are ranging from 4.9 to just over 6%, are considerably higher than where the market is today. So this provides an opportunity to not only refinance for debt service savings, but also to address the concern that was just discussed regarding the availability of room tax revenues to pay the debt service. So just as a reminder or refresher on how these bonds are secured. So the RDA owns the convention center expansion, and the city leases it from the RDA under what's referred to as a quiet enjoyment lease. So in other words, as long as the city continues to have quiet enjoyment of the premises, the city is obligated to find a way to make the debt service payments. Now, as was mentioned, the expectation and what has happened, at least up until June 1st of this year, is that room taxes collected within the city and the other participating jurisdictions have been the source of those payments. With the pandemic and the drop in the room tax revenues, what occurred is that no revenues were available to provide to the city to make that June 1st lease payment. And to that end, the city had to come up with roughly $732,000 to make bondholders whole. Now, when the stadium district tax ended, Brown County set up an informal reserve in the amount of $500,000. So that was made available to the city. And additionally, there were some funds on hand in the bond funds held at Associated Bank that were available and also used to apply towards that $732,000 payment. So basically $647,000 of either Brown County funds or restricted city funds in the bond accounts were put towards that. And the city had to come up with roughly $85,000 as the balance. And if we could go to the next slide. So in terms of the room taxes, and it's important to note that the room taxes do not secure the bonds. Again, it's a lease with room taxes expected to be the source of the lease payments, but there is a flow of funds and the room taxes, which are 10%. The first 8% is what's in play as it relates to these bonds. So the first thing that happens is there's a small administrative fee that comes off the top of the room tax collections that goes to each of the participating jurisdictions. And then the first dollars after that pay the debt service for the Resch Center, the bonds issued by the Ashwaubenon CDA, and then the 2016 city RDA bonds, which were for the original KI Center construction. Those 2016 bonds refinanced the original obligations that were issued to pay for that project. So once those two obligations are paid, any dollars that are left over go into the room tax stabilization fund. And those monies are restricted and set aside for any shortfalls in future payments on those same two obligations. And it's only at the point that that fund grows to a total of $5 million or more that the county allocates money to the city to pay the debt service on these bonds. So again, up until June 1st of this past year, there was always plenty of money coming in. It wasn't a concern. There were always dollars available within this waterfall of funds to make these lease payments. Next, please. So where we sit today, PMA, which is Brown County's financial advisor, has provided projections to the city that indicates that there is expectation there will be no dollars available to provide to the city to make the December 1st interest payment due on the bonds. And that approximately 470 be potentially available next June 1st. After that, the county is projecting that room taxes will rebound and be sufficient. But the table on the slide identifies the exposure that the city has based on these projections provided by PMA. So we've listed the payments due on December 1st and June 1st of next year. And again, no dollars available for the December 1st. So we have a $727,000 shortfall and then a partial shortfall on June 1st of next year. So close to $1 million that the city would have to find from sources other than room taxes under the current debt service payments. And next, please. And this is just a graphic of the room tax projections, again, that PMA prepared. So, not unexpectedly, we see the big drop from 2020 to 21, and the projections indicate over the next 3 years a rebounding to where we were in 2020 and then growth from that point out. And next, please. So what we're here to propose today is that the RDA move forward with the refinancing of these obligations. They are not prepayable until June 1st of 2023, but we have a mechanism that can be used called an advance refunding. And what that simply means is that rather than the new dollars borrowed immediately going to pay off the old obligations, they are placed into an escrow and at that point are considered defeased. So the escrow agent holds on to those dollars, and then at the call date, those prior obligations are redeemed. And in the meantime, they also pay the interest due from that escrow up until that call date. So from the RDA and the city's perspective, as soon as we were to close on the refunding bonds, the old bonds are off your books. So we're again proposing to have these obligations issued by the RDA. They are taxable bonds for federal purposes due to the nature of the project being refinanced. But the advantage of having the RDA be the issuer is that they are exempt from state income taxes, which makes the bonds more marketable, a better interest rate, and a better audience for the bonds. We are proposing that the RDA negotiate the placement of these bonds with Baird. Baird has been the underwriter not only for the obligation that we would be refinancing, but also the various other obligations for which the room taxes are being used to be paid, either issued by Ashwaubenon or by the RDA. So they have familiarity with the credit. We have two objectives, again, debt service savings, and then to address this roughly $1 million shortfall. And next, please. So strictly for purposes of illustration, what we identify as the existing debt service structure on the left-hand side of the exhibit. The orange shaded area in the middle just identifies the maturities of the existing debt that would be paid off by the escrow. So in this case, it would be all of the principal owed on the 2013 bonds. And on the right-hand side, we have a structure that would produce roughly level savings over the remaining life of the issue. And what it indicates is that somewhere around $280,000 per year in debt service savings, or roughly $7 million over the remaining life of the issue. So again, due to the differential between the interest rates at the time the bonds were issued and what is currently available in the market, there are fairly significant savings that can be realized. Now, we'll talk about the schedule at the end. But again, we'll just note that this is an illustration based on where the market was in June. And we would, look at rates and they would be set at pricing in November. And next, please. So same table we looked at a moment ago showing the roughly $1 million shortfall. But the other advantage of moving forward with the refinancing at this point, in addition to the roughly $7 million in potential debt service savings, is that we would be able to eliminate that December 1st interest payments. So the funds to make that would be included within the refinancing bond, and that is all still factored into that $7 million in savings. And we would not then be required to make a payment on the new bonds until June 1st of next year, when the county has indicated that expects some level of room taxes to again be available. And based on the PMA projections, the available room taxes are potentially going to be greater than the payment that the city and the RDA would have. So there would be no shortfall. Now, there can be no guarantee of those room tax dollars, but what we can definitely say is that the amount that the city would owe to the RDA next June would be less than it owes under the current structure. And there is a better probability that there would be no shortfall that would have to be made whole from other funds. And then on a going forward basis, again, the county has suggested that the room taxes are likely to again be sufficient. And next, please. So in terms of where we are in the process, we are going to similarly brief the Finance Committee at the end of the month. This is a preview regular meeting. We would ask that you actually adopt a formal resolution that would allow us to move forward with the process of putting this offering together, working with Baird, and then ultimately pricing the bonds on November 8th and bringing it to you for formal approval on November 9th. During that intervening period between August and November, there would be a lot of activity going on where we would be putting the offering documents together, obtaining a rating from Moody's, and getting the issue ready to go to market. Following the approval on November 9th, closing would occur on 23rd. And again, at that point, the old bonds would be defeased. And again, no payment on the new bonds until June 1st of 2022. So that's the overview. And both I and John Meehan would be happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Well, that's a very good explanation. Any gut feel what direction the bond rates are going?
Well, rates, and I'll certainly invite John to make any comments. The first thing I would say is if I knew the answer to that, I probably would be doing something differently. But we're clearly and have been for some time in a very low interest rate environment, and so clearly is an opportune time. It would seem much more likely that rates will go up than they will go down over the shorter and midterm. So all we can really do is hope we continue to see the good rates that are currently available.
And either way, it's going to be a tremendous savings from the rates we were paying before.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Questions or comments, please?
I have one.
Yeah, hold it.
This is great news. I mean, this is something that I've been aware of because it came to council last month. And so this is really great news. I hope that this all works out the way that it's planned to. And thank you to everyone who did the work on this. This is going to really help the city. Thanks.
Yep, absolutely. Any other questions or comments? If not, a motion to go back to regular order of business.
I'll make the motion, Gary, go back to regular order of business.
Matt?
Second.
By Debbie. All those in favor, sing by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, we're back to regular order of business. Thank you for the excellent presentation and detailed, very clear information. The PowerPoint as well as the verbal presentation was very good. We appreciate it very much. Before I go to the motion, is there any other questions or comments?
Nope.
If not,
Straightforward.
I will, yes, it is. I'll entertain a motion then, please.
I would move that we proceed with the refinancing of the bonds and preparing the formal resolution for RDA consideration on the August 10th meeting.
Very good. Is there a second?
Second.
A second by Matt. Any other questions or comments before we vote? If not, all those in favor, saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Deanna, are you there yet? Deanna?
I'm here. Yep, I'm here.
And I'm sure you look at this all the time. Now, boy, with these rate changes, is there other bonds that the city could take advantage of?
I've had two financial advisors on our team in the last 12 months, and they both have reviewed them, and we have refinanced every bond that we can up to this point.
I kind of figured you were on top of that. I really did. Thank you, Deanna. Yep. All right. Number two.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 2. consideration of possible action on a term sheet for a new development agreement with Tunin Properties for up to $5 million in TIF assistance for completion of demolition of existing structure and development of approximately 209 market rate apartments on the former JBS Packerland site at 2580 University Avenue, parcel 21-301, and replacing a previous executed agreement with TMD Properties. Neil, you want to set this up?
Yep, absolutely. So I apologize for the length of that agenda item, Mr. Chair, but I wanted to make sure everybody was clear exactly what we were going to be talking about today. This is, if RDA members will recall, this was an item that actually did come before the RDA, I believe in May, for the first item that was discussed on this being completed. The terms changed just slightly, but just enough we felt it was prudent enough to bring it back to the RDA just for some direction on one last one, to make sure everybody was on the same page with exactly what was being requested. So I'll just briefly go through recap here. Again, this is the site. If folks are familiar with it, this is the former JBS site, also referred to as the University Heights site is what we've kind of called it in the past. Again, so this is the overall site. You can actually see these two buildings these are the two buildings that have been constructed by the current developer. So there are two structures that did proceed on the site. A majority of the rest of the site has been cleared. There remains one structure, I think one primary structure, maybe a smaller one here, that still need to be removed from the site, but the majority of the site has been cleared at this point.
Kind of related to that, why weren't those buildings demolished on the first go around?
My understanding, Mr. Chair, is that it was primarily a cost issue. It ended up being more expensive than was originally anticipated by the developer, which also slowed down their proceeding on the rest of the development on the other, for actually constructing the remainder of the project as well, as that cost just simply the site prep costs came in higher than were anticipated. So it really kind of put the developer in a tough position to be able to continue.
Kind of related to that, another question, the 1.5 million that we had agreed to demolish all of the buildings, that's all been spent?
That has been, those basically invoices had been submitted, and the city has essentially issued those payments as our upfront grant as a part of this project. So those are sunk costs for the city into this project at this point.
Okay. Continue on, and I apologize for interrupting.
No, not a problem, Mr. Chair. This was, again, this original concept plan that was in the original agreement. So you see a series of multifamily buildings, stormwater, one commercial development potentially on the corner here. Was kind of the rough site of what was. It was specifically here, these are, again, the original terms that was under the TMD Properties, the existing agreement that's currently in place, 322 units over 14 buildings over about a 5-year period, which we're coming back up on in about, would have been approximately 23 or 24 when that time period would be done. We mentioned the $1.5 million. There's at least one structure that's still left to go. The original if the developer had proceeded with the project with the rest of the structures on the site, they would have been eligible for up to $4 million on a pay-go basis based on splitting the increment 50-50 with the city as the project went forward. That includes that actually included the $1.5 million project grant. The projected valuation of the project was going to be about $21.9 million and full build out by 2024. Obviously mentioned that for, I think, primarily financial reasons and the costs of the project becoming in more expensive than was originally anticipated, the TMD Properties has been unable to proceed on the project beyond their first two structures. Both TMD Properties and Tunin Properties reached out to the city, said that they were possibly interested in taking over the project and doing a new project on this site. So discussions to this point, and again, these are largely the same as the terms that were identified back in May, but I will kind of highlight some of the changes. Here's more of the new concept plan that certainly that Tunin Properties is considering. You'll see a little bit more green space, a little bit more confined, density with the developments. I think that has primarily to do with some of the soils on site and making sure that they're kind of minimizing the development area while still retaining the value for the project. The other interesting challenge that I'll mention certainly in the next slide, but because now there will be two owners here, there's certainly the question of whether or not public infrastructure would be needed in terms of and utility mains, because there is more than one private owner now in this area being on this particular site. So still some challenges to be looked at here on the site. The two new projects here essentially were about 209 market units. Obviously, that's down from the 322 that was promised by the original developer. However, the valuation is actually a little higher than was done. So the units, these are a little bit higher market rate units that are being proposed by Tunin. So certainly that from a TIF standpoint, we certainly see that as a positive. About 12 buildings, and they're also looking at over a 3-year period to get those constructed, which obviously staff feels is important since we've lost a couple years and under the original agreement, obviously to get an increment generated and in the ground. We feel the accelerated schedule helps make this project more viable. The maximum amount of funding in here is $6.5 million, but that includes the $1.5 million project grant. The important part we want to certainly point out, and that we have worked out with the developer at this point, is that initial upfront project grant would get paid back first. So the increment that would be coming in, normally it would go to the developer, will be going to pay back that upfront grant that was provided. And then once that is paid back, then the rest of the increment goes out on an 80-20 split, up to an additional possibly $5 million over time. So from $4 million up to $5 million, which we feel actually is pretty reasonable considering we know that construction costs are considerably higher than when this project was originally considered. We also know that there are some site costs that were unanticipated, as mentioned for the earlier developer, that still need to be addressed in some cases in terms of some of the soils, as well as finishing up some of the demolition of the existing structure that still remains. So again, the valuation has gone up. That does include the value of the 2 existing buildings that's still being incorporated because that value is being carried forward as part of the project, as the expenses are still being brought forward as well. So again, basically keeping the same build out by 2024. So kind of accelerating the schedule. So certainly we've had some questions in terms of whether or not there was an actual default on the agreement or not. That has not been the case. We have not pursued any developer. Both the current developer and the new developer have been very, very open in their communications about their intent to hopefully transition this project to a new developer. The city's certainly concerns is certainly getting increment in the ground, getting the site cleaned up, and getting some tax base back on the rolls is kind of our objectives here. So as long as that happens, and it happens within the timeframes that are here, I don't believe there's any chance we will be pursuing any sort of default. And they said because of the way the agreement is actually phrased, they still have till 2024 to actually technically to hit their value. So we actually aren't at a point where there's a deadline where we could actually, I don't believe where we could actually say there was a default. They're definitely behind on their development schedule than was originally promised. However, we feel this new project would more than accommodate that aspect of that.
I have a question for Neil.
Hold the door, please.
Neil, is there a number somewhere of how many apartments there were going to be, but with the other proposal, what was the total? Because I see there will be 209 additional. What was
there was going to be 322 originally proposed on the other site. So they're a little smaller, a few more buildings. And I think the market is just a little bit different in terms of the type of unit that was going to be constructed. So we think these are a little bit higher in the market scale, thus the difference in the valuation. So they could actually go fewer units and still achieve a higher assessed value than what was originally going to be proposed.
I think that's good. A lot of the pushback from the neighbors prior to this project was the number of apartments that were going to be there, their anticipation and fear of too much traffic on University and Humboldt. So this is good. It's gone down quite a bit, the number. So I think this will also make the neighborhood happy. Thank you.
Neil, the 209, does that include the 36 that are already built?
No, actually looking at, these are building an additional 209 would be the total number of new units in addition to the 36 that are already up.
So the total units would be 245?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and the same thing with the buildings. Originally it was be 14 buildings, now it says 12 buildings, but if you include the 2 that are there, it'd be 14 buildings as well?
Correct.
Okay, good. I just want a little bit of clarification on that. Questions, comments? Yes.
So Neil, I know you had mentioned, construction costs going up, et cetera, all in play here. So with your continued conversations with Tunin Properties, they're still comfortable with their not only budget, but timeline from a schedule perspective, because obviously construction world is in a lot of turmoil right now, right? Long lead time items, schedules getting pushed back. So they're still comfortable with what they've proposed?
Yeah, we have actually been in pretty regular communication with them actually since before the meeting in May, and have been continuing it with discussions on them. And at this point, they have, like I said, we have staff and the developer have agreed with the terms as they have been kind of presented and outlined here at this point.
Good.
Personal guarantees, is that the backup on some of this?
I think in terms of, I would have to go back and check and see if we had those in the original TMD properties agreement. Gary, I think in terms of obviously going forward here, staff is pretty confident in the position because it is a PAYGO project, and that the first recapture is actually the city's 1.5 up front.
Yes.
So as long as the project does perform, there unlikely to be some issues. Again, in terms of whether or not we actually get to a default where we would need to pursue those types of guarantees is certainly, but you certainly will ensure, and as we will work with our standard language with both Attorney Chavez and with Director Ellenbecker, we'll make sure that those kind of standard guarantees are included in the document.
Okay, as you know, we love PAYGO tips, but in this regard, are we also going to have to knock down the rest of those buildings before they even get into their construction, or not really?
Well, the developer would be taking care of that on their behalf. And again, because we've already committed that $1.5 million that would kind of be a sunk cost, that is essentially between the existing owner and the proposed owner to kind of how to address that transfer in their land, in their transaction.
Okay. Matt, you usually have some good questions. Where are you at, buddy?
No, I think this is good. I mean, right, we've clearly been stalled on that property, Gary, and this looks like it gets us back on the path, to having tax increment create objective. And I think all of us are pretty aware of Tunin as a developer. They've already got units out in that area. They've done a really nice job and kept those rental units, I think, out in that area, Cedar Lake, in really, really nice shape. So I'm clearly supportive of this.
Debbie, Kathy, Melanie, thoughts or comments, questions? I know Melanie, you asked some questions. Anybody else got questions or comments?
I do. Just has nobody taken advantage of that? This is an opportunity zone.
At this point, we have not that we're aware of, Debbie. In terms of our experience right now with, we've had very limited success with opportunity zones right now. I think in the city of Green Bay. It does take a very unique developer and a very qualified developer who knows obviously how to take advantage of those particular funds and qualified expenditures. We have one, I think, actually that we are looking at right now. I believe it's our merge project on the shipyard is the first one that we're aware of who's actually been really successfully and gone gung ho and is all in and seen opportunity zone tax credit. Well, we found very difficult to find the right combination of developers to kind of bring something forward. So we're certainly aware that it's out there. I think developers are aware that it's out there, but for one reason or another, we just have not seen a lot of projects come forward on that, which is very frustrating because certainly I think the cities and the RDA has been very competitive with TIF offerings to try to kind of leverage some of those things and those tools. Hopefully, fingers crossed, in the future, we still see someone taking advantage of that because we do know, obviously, in terms of even like WIDA tax credits, how competitive those can be. And, not every project is an affordable project, but we've had trouble with some of those folks even qualifying and getting in competitive position for those tax credits. So maybe we've seen more of them fall back into the opportunity zone tax credits, or maybe a little bit. So we're hopeful that someone will still in the future will be able to take advantage of that program.
Well, under an opportunity zone too, don't they have to retain the property for a minimum of 10 years?
I think there are certainly some timing restrictions on there, Kathy. Absolutely, in order, especially to get full maximum benefit of the investment through the tax credit program. You do it is I believe, and we're already on like year 8. I think so. We're already below that 10-year window. Yeah.
And the second development agreement. So
yes.
No, we need to move forward.
All right. So Neil, ideally, you'd like us to give you a preliminary approval of preliminary terms, and I know later on you're going to talk about a special meeting on July 27th where we would finalize the terms. Is that correct?
That is correct. We're again, if a feeling of deja I have this before you in May, but again, we just wanted to make sure that the terms were as you guys understood, and before we actually had Attorney Chavez finalize an agreement to bring forward to you. And we would like to do that if quorum is available on the 27th, if at all possible. Well, we can talk about that at the end of the meeting.
I think it's extremely exciting that this project is moving forward again. Again, it's a prime property within the city of Green Bay, Barrett Creek behind it, and great location next to the University and University Avenue. So it's just extremely exciting that it's moving forward again. Debbie, do you want to say something? Oh, I'm sorry. So I guess we're looking for a motion to approve the preliminary terms and that the direct staff to continue working on it, and that we would actually have a special meeting to finalize it. Looking for a motion.
I will move that we approve the preliminary terms and obligations identified and request direction. And I ask staff to prepare a formal development agreement.
And I will second, Gary.
Okay, Alderdorf made the motion and Matt seconded. Questions or comments? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Excellent job. Way to bird dog this, Neil, and keep moving it forward. We appreciate it very much.
Well, I have to admit, Gary, this was one of the first ones that you were bugging me on when I started in February. Like, where are we at on this one? So I'm glad this one came forward. So
Excellent. Thank you. Keep up the great work. Item number 3, consideration with possible action request to amend the development agreement with Whitney School Development LLC regarding moving the timing of their first PAYGO TIF payment for Whitney School Apartments Lofts Development at 215 North Webster Avenue, parcel 9-112 from 2022 to 2021. Neil, is that you again?
yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is an unusual situation. This project has been completed and it is actually up and done. They raised the schedule. The way it should work out is essentially we were saying once they got their occupancy permit, they would be fully assessed the following year, taxes paid, and then incentive paid the following year after that. What happened is essentially they were substantially complete at the end of 2020, but they did not get their occupancy permit until the very next year. So they missed a couple of weeks. They just missed that window. So they were essentially substantially completed. So what they're asking for, there was actually increment generated. There was a tax bill that's been issued. So they're simply asking if they could qualify for the assistance payment here this coming year and just moving that up there. It is critical to their HUD funding, essentially, in terms of how they're financing the project. So we have had, this is again, just to remind everybody, here's the site. So with that, here's essentially the summary of the agreement. The current agreement was for renovation of 23 Mark-Rate apartments. 80% of the increment up to $800,000 on a PAYGO basis. So there is a cap that is already in place that is maximized here, so that even if we pay these funds earlier now, it still does not advance the total amount of money the developer is eligible for. So the project has been completed. Occupancy permits were issued in January 2020, making it the first year was 21. So first tax payment would have been 2022 this coming year. So because of the substantial increment that was created in 20, the developer is requesting that the first PAYGO payment be made in 21. We did ask, and Diana actually had her staff take a look at. There was and confirmed that the valuation did increase, that there was substantial increment that was added, and there is not a negative impact on cash flow essentially for the district or this project. And able to do that. So short version is certainly we're recommending approval to the amendment of the agreement to basically to advance that to 2021, subject to confirmation of available cash flow, which we have done with finance department, and that confirming the developers met other obligations. So essentially this would be a presentation of terms similar to what we just did with Tunin. If the RDA is in agreement, we would prepare a formal agreement and bring that back at our special meeting again on the 27th for consideration. So with that, I'm available for questions. And again, the developer is here as well if anyone has any questions for that.
Actually, I would like to ask a question to the developer. So I request a motion to open the meeting.
Motion to open the floor.
Okay, motion by Oldendorf. I think it was second by Debbie. Is that right, Deb? Is that okay, Debbie? I thought you did.
Yeah, or with me?
All those in favor, oh, I'm sorry, Kathy. Sorry, I didn't hear you, Kathy.
We sound alike.
All right. All those in favor, sing by saying aye.
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 Opposed, motion carried. And the developer, who is, I don't see him.
Hello, Chairperson. This is Anuj Sogi. You guys might remember me from 2016, 2017, when we originally project. And I'm here representing Milwaukee View and Lindsay Bovene, who's the developer. So I worked hand in hand with Kevin Bonk as well as Vanessa Chavez on the development and the development agreement. There was just one thing, Neil, I wanted to point out, which was that the project was substantially complete in December of 2019. And just because of our financing mechanisms, we actually couldn't get our full C of O until January 14th of 2020, because because of our historic tax credits, we needed to place them in 2020. So really it was a 14-day delay in the C of O based on a technicality. But the project, as Neil said, was substantially assessed in the beginning of 2020. And there was a substantial increment generated from that.
Okay. The question I got is how's it going as far as renting out the apartments?
The apartments are going fantastic. So I would say, based on my conversation with Lindsay Bovene, the owner, COVID was a pretty stressful time, but they were able to get fully leased up by the fall and the winter.
Really?
And so from then on, it's been doing really well. And I know Neil had also asked us how the townhomes are doing. And right now, the first phase of townhomes, as you guys can see when you drive by that street, 6 townhomes are complete. 3 are sold, 2 are pending in sale, and then there's only 1 available.
Wow.
So
that's quite a turnaround.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're glad to see, just because of this current market, things really started moving. And we looked at doing this next phase of 6 townhomes. And I know it doesn't pertain to this development agreement, it's a different development agreement, but just to update you on that as well. That next phase, we would really love to get going, but just because of construction costs, we really had to kind of hold on. Otherwise, I think we'd be pushing ourselves out of the market in how we would have to price these townhomes. So we're trying to see if we can get some relief by hopefully 3rd or 4th quarter of this year in terms of just costs, and then move forward.
That's a great update.
Thank you.
You made some good progress on the apartments. Or leasing it. I know originally it started out with a little bit slow, but a lot of things started out slow with COVID.
Yeah.
Great update. Questions or comments for the developer, please? If not, I'll entertain a motion to go back to regular business. Kathy made a motion. All the door seconded. All those in favor, sing by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. We're back to regular. Thank you, Mr. Developer. I'm sorry I didn't get your name.
Thank you.
I apologize. Thank you very much for the update. It's a great update. So we're back to regular order of business, and I will entertain a motion of some sort. Or any sort.
I'll make a motion that we approve the amendment to advance the first PAYGO tip payment to the developer on 2021.
Motion made by Kathy.
Second.
Second by Debbie. I think Debbie had her hand up there. Debbie has seconded. So any questions or comments on the motion in a second? If not, all those in favor, sing by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Thank you. Excellent update and a good resolution. Agenda item number 4, consideration of possible action on home funding request from Greater Green Bay Habitat for Humanity to build a home at 2067 Harvey Street. Is that Neil again? Oh, no. Who is it?
Neil, I'm going to take this one.
Thank you.
Habitat for Humanity has sent in a completed home funding application for a gap in financing for $23,500 for a 4-bedroom, 2-bath affordable home at the 1267 Harvey Street. The lot you can see is located in a neighborhood of mostly 1.5 to 2-story properties. And due to this, the volunteers due to the roof lining, it creates a little more liability with the volunteers. So Habitat actually uses subcontractors when they have to do with the increased roof lines on these. So that does create a little bit more expense for them, but due to the additional construction costs as well, it creates a gap in their financing of $23,500. Staff has reviewed the application and we are recommending the award of the $23,500 in the gap financing.
Okay, good explanation. Questions or comments?
Last month we had 2 of these. So this is really, you're just going through the ones that you're building right now, correct? So this
Correct.
is basically on the same thing. Okay. Because this is a bigger house than last month. So.
Yep.
Okay.
I move to approve.
Second.
Oldendorf made the motion to approve. Did I hear a second? I'm not sure I heard it.
You guys do such great work.
I heard a
It sounds
second.
like a second, Kathy. It sounds like a second.
Yes, I did second.
All right, a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? If not, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent project, actually. Number 5, consideration of possible action on request from NewCap Inc. of $136,900 of community development block grant funding for the acquisition of 315 South Jefferson Street, parcel 13-122, to develop a temporary shelter facility which will serve unsheltered families. Wow. Who's got?
Me, Gary. Will Peters here. Thank
Hi,
you.
Will.
Good afternoon, rather, everyone. So NewCap is submitting a request, as mentioned, for $136,900 to purchase 315 South Jefferson for use as a short-term housing shelter facility, which will serve approximately 10 to 12 families that are not being served by any other shelters in the city. This project is called for Center for Advocacy or Advocating, Believing, and Achieving, or CABA. There are 2 family shelters in the community currently in the city of Green Bay. One only serves traditional family, and the other serves young parents and their children. This shelter would be used to fill that gap. And then the shelter will be staffed 24 hours per day and will offer a variety of supportive services to families that reside there. And then also to add, if you remember back in December, this past winter, NewCap received some CARES funds to assist with CABA, this program serving families. Due to circumstances that were out of their control, the facility that they were using, that they were leasing, they're no longer able to lease. So right now, those families that were in that facility are currently vouchered on motel vouchers. So I know, and Debbie Bushman here from NewCap is also here to answer questions and speak more in depth to this proposal. But currently, they have 13 families vouchered, 38 families on the waiting list, 3 families in vehicles and cars, living out of cars right now, and 8 that are currently in sheltered. So capacity is a huge need right now for and it's fortunately NewCap is trying to meet that need. So with that, I would ask if you have questions specifically that go in depth. Debbie Bushman from NewCap is here to speak to those questions.
I don't have any specific questions. I definitely see a need, but anybody else got questions or comments? We can open the meeting for Debbie. Otherwise, we'll entertain a motion.
So
Well, Chair, if I can just point, Chair, can I just point one thing out? We just want to make sure that your motion staff is fully supporting this, but there will have to be some zoning changes with some public input that are involved with this and making sure that the building will support it physically. So we'd like you to recommend approval based on contingent on the zoning and permitting approvals that are needed.
Thank you, Cheryl. Right, as stated in the recommendation of the report, there is a contingency that is based on the approval of a conditional use permit.
Very good.
Okay. I move to approve the request to new cap of 136.9 for the acquisition for community development block grant funding for the acquisition of 315 South Jefferson, contingent on any required zoning and permitting approvals.
Very good.
I'll second that.
Okay, second by Melanie. Motion made by Debbie, second by Melanie. Any questions or comments?
Just one comment, Gary, and that was within our packet, right? There was a letter from the chief of police. And that was just really helpful, you know, for me and just adding context to the situation as well. So, hey, to both, you know, Chief Runge and to the staff as well, that was just really good and helpful context that I did not have. And, you know, seeing the police chief write that was very, very helpful.
Yes.
Yeah.
People.
I agree with that.
Very nice.
There's no other questions or comments. All those in favor, sing by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. I think we're addressing a real need there. Consideration of possible action request for New Cap Inc. of $141,900 of community development block grant for the acquisition of 932 Cherry Street, parcel 09-134-8 to develop a short-term housing facility for youth under the age of 18. Different need here.
Yes, a different but very unmet need in our community currently. So just the same as before, New Cap is requesting the funds $141,900 to assist in the acquisition 932 for a shelter to serve youth under the age of 18. Again, this facility will be staffed 24/7 and residents will not have to leave during the daytime hours. There will also be a drop-in center for youth for use during the day. And they're calling this center the Center for Youth. The shelter received funding from DEHCR for rehabilitation, staffing, and operations. So New Cap is looking for funds to purchase the building. This facility will take all youth under the age of 18, no matter the situation. The Wisconsin Association for Homeless and Runaway Services is supporting New Cap in this venture and has included the project in their basic center funding grant for 2021-2022. The purchase price for the building is $139,900 plus closing cost. Again, this is a very unmet need, finding that serving the needs of the youth under the age of 18 right now that no other facility in Green Bay is currently meeting.
Okay.
And this would also have the same contingency as the first request, where this would need a conditional use permit. So the funding request is contingent on the acquisition of that or the approval of that conditional use permit.
Questions, comments? If not, I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to approve the request from New Cap of the $141,900 of community development block grant funding for the acquisition of 932 Cherry Street to develop a short-term housing facility for youth under the age of 18, contingent on any required zoning and permitting approvals.
Thank you, Melanie.
Second.
A second by Alder Dorf. Questions or comments?
Same comment as the last one, Gary.
All right, excellent.
Just being consistent.
I obviously glad you're doing your homework, which I expect nothing less. But thank you. All in favor, sing by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 7, consideration of possible action, substantial amendment of 2021 annual action plan to reallocate $148,000 from economic development revolving loan funding to infrastructure and park improvements in CDBG eligible areas. Will again? No?
No, this one's me.
Oh,
Krista, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
this
you.
was me. So this one, we're looking to move some money around our 2020 annual action plan. We had allocated some money into the economic development revolving loan funds for loans for businesses within our community. But with the coronavirus and all of the restrictions, this money is not moving as fast as we need it to move through the federal regulations on spending our money in the city. So staff has met with the Department of Public Works and the Parks Department and identified some uses, some eligible CDBG uses for these funds. And we would like to move this money from the economic development program into the infrastructure and park improvements to provide funding for a safe crossing along Ashland Avenue for the Seymour Park areas, and then also to resurface a number of alleys within the CDBG eligible areas.
Wendy, are you aboard? Oh, Wendy's not there.
I believe she's on the call, but she has been consulted on this, Mr. Chair, yes.
Okay.
Yes. And this is only a portion of the economic development funds that we are moving, that she does not have any businesses in the hopper. And then we will also be receiving 2021 funds in August.
Okay.
So that fund will be replenished.
Okay.
But due to the timeliness and the federal regulations, we have to move the old money, and we have to be down below a certain dollar amount by November 15th. So that's why we are taking a look at getting this money spent.
Good strategy. Any questions or comments, or entertain a motion?
Gary, I'll make the motion to approve the substantial amendment to the 2020 annual action plan to reallocate $148,000 from the Economic Development Revolving Loan Fund to infrastructure and park improvements in CDBG eligible areas.
Thank you, Matt. Second.
I'll second.
Second by Melanie. Questions or comments? All those in favor of the motion, a second, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Thank you. Oh, we got a full agenda today, guys. You guys have been busy. Consideration and possible action on approving revisions to the Home Improvement Loan Program, HILP Procedures Manual. Who's got that?
This one's me again, Gary. So the City of Green Bay administers a HILP program, Home Improvement Loan Program, and NeighborWorks Green Bay is the subrecipient of those funds and is actually running the program, the day-to-day program, and getting those loans out the door. They've been doing that for about a year now. In talking with them and reviewing the program, we received a letter from them asking if we could make some changes to the HILP program manual. The loans that are coming through due to the increase in construction costs and materials, it's hard to stay below the maximum loan amounts, which are identified in that manual currently. So they are requesting change to that to increase the amounts for those single family homes and the multifamily homes. Their recommendation is $37,500 for single family homes and $52,500 for multifamily homes. Staff has talked to them about this change, and we all agree that with the rising costs, it's really hard to get the work that needs to be done for these individuals with under that the current limits.
We certainly can all relate to the cost of materials and labor, that's for sure.
Krista, to clarify that, it's the maximum for single family is $35,000, right?
Oh, I'm sorry, 35,000. Yes, I'm sorry.
And then multifamily would go from 37.5 up to 52.5. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Just wanted to make sure we had that right.
So that's an increase of almost 30%.
Yeah.
It's about what's out there with the materials and labor. But anyway.
I believe there are reps from NeighborWorks here. If you guys have questions about the program, you could open the floor.
Yeah, I think it's a great program. So it's
I don't have any questions.
Seeing how much this all goes up.
I don't have any questions myself, but if somebody wants to, we can open it. I don't have any need, but if somebody else does, we will.
I can tell you that this 25,000 limit has been on the program for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, over a decade at least, I would think. So we really haven't adjusted these in a very long time. So I think it's.
Well, I'd be happy to make a motion.
I'll second that after what Cheryl said.
Yeah.
I think Melanie had her.
No, I was just going to piggyback on what Cheryl said, that, I mean, really, I mean, almost annually, we should be looking at, should we be increasing those based on what we're seeing in construction costs, but certainly most recently, a very real jump in costs. So yeah, I'm not sure who made the motion here. I won't step on any toes, so.
Melanie, I'll make the motion if you want to second it.
Sure, I'll second it.
Alder and second by Melanie. All those in favor, sing by saying aye.
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 Opposed, motion carried. Thank you. Number 9, consideration of possible action, a final payment for CD 20-01 sidewalk pavement repair and alley resurfacing in the amount of $22,452.32 to Peters Concrete Company. Bottom line, they've done their job?
Yes, they've done their job, and all the required paperwork has been turned in.
Then I make a motion that we make payment.
Kathy makes a motion for the payment?
Second.
Yeah.
Second.
$22,452.32.
I think Melanie seconded that.
Debbie, second by Debbie.
I'm sorry. All right. Motion by Kathy, second by Debbie. All those in favor, sing by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Number 10, can't believe we finally got there. Consideration with possible action and report of current RDA owned properties. Is that lengthy report?
That's the back.
This is it's just a more informational one. I wanted to give a breakdown of what we have going on with the RDA owned properties that we currently have on hand. Currently, we have 84 properties that we are currently marketing for redevelopment. In development, we have 10 properties that either have projects or developers selected. And we currently have 66 properties that are still under research or need more staff planning as to what we want to do moving forward. I have the map on here shows you kind of where they're concentrated in the city of Green Bay. I've also included some other sheets that break down exactly which properties are on hold, option, or active zoning and anticipated development. And I just wanted to be able that we get this out on file and everybody is informed of what we're doing with our current RDA properties.
Yes. I know we requested at least get an update. I've got to admit, I did not look at the details in this one. So we may have more questions at the next meeting because I did not. But it's something that we're all quite interested in. Sound like you're on top of it, though. You're trying to move them along as quickly as possible.
Doing our best.
Yeah, that's all we can ask. All we can ask. Did anybody look at it in detail and got questions or comments? I got to admit, I did not. I'm sorry. But if not, we could always look at it on our own time and then
absolutely
ask some questions for the next meeting if nothing else. So we will just receive and place on file at this point in time. All right.
Perfect.
Thank you. Keep up the great work.
Thank you.
Yes.
Our objective, all of our objectives is to get those all in the property tax rolls. And I'm sure you're doing your best you can. Thank you. Informational update on the housing study. Cheryl, what's happening?
Well, since you've all been through this lengthy meeting, we've approved you will be approving hopefully 209 market rate units. We've got 1 single family affordable house to be built. And we also have 2 transitional housing projects. So we've been working on those things over the past month. Yes. We continue to issue RFPs. We have 3 out actually. Mason Manor has an RFP for redevelopment. That's our public housing 8-story. And then also 1100 East Walnut and Monroe and Chicago sites are out now for RFPs. I know I've been receiving calls from developers who are interested in housing. I know the boss has, and I know other staff have as well. So that's been good. And then we just continue to work with our partners, our Brown County and the BCHA and the Chamber on housing initiatives that we're working on citywide.
Excellent. Thanks for the update. Very good. I didn't have any questions. I looked at the financial report and check register. I don't know if anybody else did.
Yep.
Yes. Neighborhood Works, please.
No?
I took his hand up.
Yeah, no did.
Oh. Okay, I'm sorry. Any questions then in regard to financial report or check register? If not, director's report and project updates. Neil, please.
Yep, just a few updates. Staff continues to work with TWG on the Fort project. They're continuing to try to still kind of reestablish their capital financing program for that project. So that's why you still see the elevator shaft sitting there, but no construction working at this point. So, but they are in communication with staff, and they are still trying to kind of get that project moving forward. So they are still actively working on that. Staff continues to work with Dean Miller on the One Astor project. Folks have probably been by that way. On the bike path has been installed and is in over in that area. That has been completed and done. We're looking at trying to work with Dean to kind of update the development agreement. Probably will hopefully be bringing something forward here in the next month or two, kind of updating his project and his timelines. As far as we know, the project itself has not changed. I still think but just maybe the timing and exactly when he's going to be ready to do that may be changed. So that's one where you'd actually have to create a TIF district for, I believe, is kind of actually do. So some additional work to still go on that one. Planning staff has been recently, I think just yesterday, was in touch with the developers of the Legacy project. They are also continuing to kind of reevaluate some design elements in their project, but again, still are in communication with staff. We are confident that a project is hopefully imminent here within the next couple months. So looking at a couple of things, hopefully coming back from them. So that's still in the hopper. Impact 7, if RDA folks will remember, they have the planning option on the Badger Sheet Metal site. They are also continuing to stay in communication with staff and are working to kind of finalize their financing structure. We have a 3-month planning option with them. At this point, there certainly seems like they are making progress and keeping us well informed. So I don't know if they're going to need a 3-month extension on that or not, but certainly they are doing kind of their part in terms of keeping us up to speed in terms of their progress. So we are confident that they will be hopefully be moving something forward here shortly. Shipyard, our projects still continue on that. Right now, the city's plan staff continues to work with Stantec, our environmental consultant, and doing some design work. Right now, I believe the schedule is we're looking at probably going out for bid on some of the public improvements, including the waterfront trail and some of the other amenities, the riverfront amenities, probably here this winter, and hopefully have those under construction this spring. We were going to try to attempt to do that this fall, but at the recommendation of our consultant, who said that the bidding environment is just kind of difficult enough as it is right now coming out of COVID, that maybe waiting till spring was probably the better time to get a little bit of a break on pricing. So we've kind of shifted to that. We also anticipate Merge actually getting under construction shortly after we get our public improvements underway. So we're hopefully their first building structure should be under construction in probably maybe summertime, we think next year. Cheryl mentioned the RFPs for Monroe and Walnut Street. We are continuing to work on the JBS site in terms of kind of developing a concept, kind of coordinating a lot of that with the mayor's office and doing some public engagement with the neighborhood there right by Imperial Lane and doing some outreach with some of the partners in that area. So probably going to be bringing that one actually forward to the RDA for some comments when we have one done. But that's probably here in the next hopefully in the next month or two, we're going to have that kind of ready to go and moving forward on that. Similarly, we are also trying to prepare a new RFP for the Adams Street, Cherry Street lot that the city owns, the RDA owns, right there on that next to the city center building. So we continue to kind of get ready for that. We're also kind of working with the owner of the city center building to try to see exactly what their intentions and what their plans are for that structure. So we're trying to coordinate those two procedures right now so they're consistent with one another. Just a couple of just general staff updates. Planning staff is currently working on some parking code updates, which doesn't sound very exciting, but it actually is kind of an important thing here for the city, especially in our downtown areas in terms of getting some things current. Looking at maybe updating part of the authenticity plan. Folks of the RDA remember that. Certainly that involves the city center Bay Lake building, but also some of the areas downtown. Possibly doing some updates to that. So we're establishing an internal team to kind of evaluate that and decide which way our best options might be to proceed on that. If we do that, certainly this body will be involved in that effort as we kind of proceed with that. And then that's what it is here. It's middle of July. We're ramping up hopefully for some comprehensive plan updates here going forward here probably sometime this fall and getting that process really underway. And I think the last one, I think we noted there's at least 2, if not 4 TIFs we may be taking a look at getting created here yet this year in 2021. 2 for sure, maybe as many as 4, depending on how schedules work out. So we're probably going to be seeing a lot of us here in the next 6 months is my feeling. So you're going to be hearing from staff quite a bit. So
Boy, you guys have been busy. Very impressive, Neil. Wow.
So with that, certainly available for any questions.
Wow. A great update. It's amazing how the things are going on. You obviously got a dynamite group working with you, Neil.
It's a good team, no doubt about it.
You see that. Wow, great update. Questions or comments for Neil, staff, or the mayor? The mayor is Ian.
Mayor is unfortunately not able to join us today, Mr. Chair. I think he's getting ready for his State of the City address this evening.
I'm gonna go out there. Hear what he's got to say.
Hey, it's on the west side. That's the first time in ever, I think.
Is that right? Oh,
yes.
New mayor.
When are we going to come back to in-person meetings?
That's a great question, Kathy. Mr. Chair, you want me to go ahead and address this one?
Please.
Obviously, we're still working through, the council's meeting in a hybrid level right now, Kathy, so we're kind of seeing how that's working. We actually talked with Gary about possibly moving this one back attempting to move it back. I think the issue we're running into in terms of room 604 is the ability to social distance in that room if we have it, depending on how many people we have. So we may try to attempt to do something in the council chambers. At this point, we're still probably doing some sort of virtual hybrid meeting of some sort. So we'd be together, but we'd also have to have folks on their computer or laptop somehow to still be participating in the meeting. So we're looking to try to attempt to do something on the 27th if we have a special meeting. To try to get some degree, probably a hybrid meeting of something in person. So whether or not we can do that in 604, again, I think we have some limitations in terms of social distancing. If we get a full room, we might not have kind of enough room to really do it there. So council chambers would probably be our best bet. But we're going to probably do some evaluation of that here in the next couple of weeks and come up with a recommendation and get a hold of Gary and see what we think we can make happen here for our next meeting.
Good. Yeah. I'm anxious to see live bodies again.
Me too.
Especially 604. I like that rule. Maybe because of Harry Meyer. Probably why.
Yes.
Anyway, and so tell us about the 27th.
Just wanted to certainly, if there's enough quorum would be available, the 2 items we'd be bringing back would be certainly the actual agreement documents to the first 2 items, the first 2 items 2 and items 3 of today's agenda. We'll be bringing those back here for formal action assuming there is a quorum available, and at the discretion of this body, if that would be possible, we would like to have a special meeting on the 27th, if possible.
All the members that are aboard right now, can any of them tell us that they can't make it on 27th at this point in time? Or
I can.
Kathy cannot?
I'm on vacation through the end of the month then.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Next week.
Are you assuming 1:30 again, Neil?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I can be there.
Actually, I could log in. So, I'll be on vacation. So I suppose I could just log in.
Yeah, especially if we don't have a quorum. Sometimes that's critical.
Yeah, I can log in. I'll do that.
And we do hope this would be a quick one. It should be just a formalization of the discussion we had today. But just have it actually in black and white for you guys to take a look at and take action on. So hopefully it would be a short meeting.
Melody, Debbie, Alderdorf.
I can be there.
I was saying I'm tentative.
Okay, you're tentative. Okay.
Yeah, and then if you could just send out an invite so it gets on the calendar.
Yep.
Okay.
Anything else for the good of the team? Or good of the city, actually. You guys are dynamite, Neil. You guys got a lot of things going on. Wow.
Yeah, nice job.
Yes.
The whole team, Cheryl, everybody.
A lot of energy in the city right now. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
If not, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion we adjourn.
Second.
A motion and a second. I'm not sure who, but we got them. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you, everybody.